Back again. I like to start my hair with my bottom row and the bottom section of my hair down. So I'm taking my thumbs and kind of running them along the top of my weft, grabbing that hair. I like to twist it into like a rope and then give it like a loose little bun, tuck the tail under, give it a little clip. Anything that's going to avoid a lot of kinks in the hair. You could use a scrunchie as well. I like to bring my hair forward. We want to make sure our hair is smooth and dry. I like to take, I'm going to be using a 1-inch iron today. I truly love the Bioionic long barrel for long hair. You can use it for shorter hair too, but this long barrel is pretty amazing and makes the task quicker, and it has a beautiful pull through the hair. It doesn't drag or snap your hair. I am a very fast curler. Maybe today I'll go a little slower, so I'm going to drop my heat to 320. I feel like 320 for somebody who's not a speedy curler is plenty hot enough. You could even start at the 280 and see if that works for you. So I'm going to start with this section right around my face. This is my natural hair. And my natural hair is actually going to curl a little faster. Because my hair is very wavy naturally, I don't have to add like a spray to it before I curl because it will hold a curl well. If you have very silky hair and you feel like it's always dropping the curl, you could add a little bit of a light hold hairspray before to add a little grip. Make sure, however, that you're applying that hairspray, ideally an aerosol, because it's a dry spray, it's not gonna wet your hair. You want this piece to not have any wetness. So keep that spray away from your head far enough that it just gives it kind of a dry dusting of hold. I'm taking my iron in this little vertical section, starting at the top. I'm rolling backwards. You can see the tail of my hair is still left out. And then I'm dropping and unwinding, and then I'm rewinding and then dropping. So the constant turning motion of going back away from the face never ends, but I am dropping it out in the middle so that it doesn't give it a really high bouncy curl. It gives it a more elongated wave. And then I'm going through with my finger and taking and dropping down vertically about an inch vertical section. When you are curling your hair, the smaller the curling iron, the smaller the section. The larger the curling iron, the larger the section. You want to make sure that the sections are not too dense, because then the heat will not penetrate them evenly and you will be very unhappy with your curls. So if I have an inch iron, I like to take about an inch section. See how I'm unwinding, but I'm continuing to turn my iron the same direction. And now I'm grabbing that bottom hair and then sliding it through. So that's giving it an elongated curl without too much bounce on the bottom. This can be very awkward for people, but just because you're struggling with it doesn't mean you can't get it right. It's like riding a bike. This is way too big of a section. So I did take I didn't take a vertical section. I was awkward about it. So there we go. Split that with my finger. Now I've got a much more manageable, not too thick section. I'm running it through once to help smooth out the hair and warm it up, dragging it halfway down, rolling it up. When I drop it out, I'm continuing that backwards turning motion. Now I'm rolling it up, and that backwards turning motion as I unwind. Now I'm really exaggerating this and that's okay, because I want you guys to be able to try to follow along with me. And if you're not getting it right away, that's okay. We've got lots of sections ahead of us. I'm gonna smooth through, heat it up, take it. I'm still going back away from my face, turning, re-gripping, my finger here, holding like this. And then I'm unwinding in the same direction. This is going backwards, unwinding, re-gripping, pulling it down. When I pull it down, I'm loosening the grip of the clip a little bit. So that's my fingers always on this clip. So I can just loosen it just that little bit so I can slide it down. Moving on, taking that section, little of my natural hairs in there. If your underneath pieces are much shorter than mine are, you may have to do those separately. But if you want a loose, wavy, curly look, you're gonna wanna treat those bottom hairs differently. Because if you go in there and you section off your natural shorter pieces and you go in with a 1-inch curling iron, then you are going to have these really short, bouncy curls, and all of your extension hair are gonna have a really smoother look, and then the curl's gonna start in the middle. So it's better if you have shorties to round brush them really well and maybe use a flat iron just to kind of like integrate them into the extension hair. You wanna just make sure that the ends are blending in as much as they can. So it usually doesn't mean a curl, it usually just means a little heat to take away the natural kind of fluffiness of your hair. So reaching around the back, continuing with the small sections, making sure they're tangle free, everything tangle free. Still turning it towards the back. You can touch this. You know, you want to always be able to have it not so hot that you can't touch it. I just kind of like to tap it. Make sure it's getting warm. Dropping it out, turning the iron the same way, releasing that grip a little, letting it tighten, roll up, and then fully releasing, sliding the hair all the way through the end. Okay, I've gotten to the back of my head, so now I am going to start on my right side, right by my face. When extension hair is brand spanking new, it can actually be a little harder to curl. It could take the curl a little less than when the hair gets old. As the hair ages and it is more porous and more textured, it will hold the curl a lot faster. So you'll notice that. Extension hair ages. That's all there is to it. You are buying highly processed hair. The longer and the blonder your hair is, the more processed it is and the more likely it is going to break off on the ends, shorten, and get sparse. You can take very good care of it and that will help, but it will still degrade quicker than somebody with shorter hair or somebody with darker hair. So, you know, they do say blondes are high maintenance, and that's another way. You just have to replace your hair more often if you want that very long, very fresh, very full look. So this can be awkward for people because you're doing the same thing. You're going back away from your face and you're still keeping your thumb on here and your finger under here. Well, maybe that's opposite. Oh, I guess I go back and forth, guys. See, sometimes you just don't even know what you do until you start to tell somebody what you do. And that dexterity that I have, that I don't even think about because I do it all day, every day, I am gonna curl faster because it is a thoughtless pattern for me. So for you, it will eventually become a thoughtless pattern, but that's why by doing this together, if you're screwing up, you can pause, you can try to regroup, watch me do the next curl, and on and on. So this is gonna give you time to practice. There we go. And still got this chunk of natural hair, or not curled hair, grabbing a small section. Loosening, rolling up, dropping it out. Why do we drop it out? It is simply a more modern way of curling hair. There is nothing wrong with curling your hair in a more maybe traditional way if you're, in your 40s or older. The way we learned maybe how to curl when we were younger, I would consider that the more traditional way. The youngsters will only know this way of curling. So there's nothing wrong with it, and give it a couple years and we'll probably go back to that very super bouncy look that we used to do. This is just, if you want this particular look, which is very popular, this is how we achieve it. The little bit of a flatter end. The ends I always leave out, and even just kind of like smooth through them on their way out of the iron. The other nice thing about leaving the heat off the ends, is that, well, the ends are the most damaged part of the hair, and they just don't need the heat on them that long. It's too much. Me personally, I'm going to section off my top. If I'm doing a quick and dirty version, I may, because my top is very fine and thin and sparse and skinny on the ends, I could technically throw that in there with my top weft if I was in a rush. But by doing it separately, I'm gonna get a much more beautiful look. I mean, surprise, surprise. You take time on something and it looks better. To a point, I feel like if I sat here forever and did my makeup, I'd probably end up looking like a clown, just adding more and more. But in this case, spending just enough time meticulously sectioning the hair, you're gonna get a really beautiful look. You can just kind of move this out of the way, look for those sections that need to be grabbed. This might be a little on the thick side, so I'm just gonna separate a little bit of that hair. Again, it's very easy to want to cut corners with the blow drying. It's easy to want to cut corners with the curling iron section sizes, how long you're holding it on. But if you can consider the fact that when you're wearing extensions, you are investing time up front so that you can save time on an everyday basis. That piece got missed. These things happen. It is a tiny section, so I can go faster on that section because the heat is penetrating that section a lot faster because it's not as thick. So that's the other thing. The smaller your sections, the faster you can release your section, because the faster it is heating up your section. If you are a much slower curler than me, don't forget to drop that iron down to 280. Just because your iron goes up to 400 or 450 does not mean you have any business using that. I would never use that, and I'm a very fast curler. You can cook pizza at 450 degrees. Don't cook your hair. Personally, I think heat protection is important, but I also love that in modern products, there's a lot of heat protection that's already kind of mixed in to some of my favorite products. So again, I love the Isles formula, the Curl Revive spray, or the finishing serum, because it's like a leave-in conditioner, a detangler, a blow dry serum, a heat protectant, UVB, UVA protectant, and humidity protectant all in one. They do make heat defense products that you can spray in before you curl. I personally do not love those because they can often, if it's a spray, they can often leave the hair a little bit wet-ish or crispy. So if it comes out wet and then you're having to curl over a little bit of dampness, you're gonna be kind of frazzling and frying, and you're gonna get some steam coming off of that. If it's a spray-on product heat defense that goes on in a spray form is a little drier, it's usually because there's alcohol in it to help it dry out so quickly, and that can be drying to the hair. And I often find that those they can create a lot of stiffness and like stickiness to the hair. I don't love them. So I prefer just making sure you're using a good heat defense product when you are blow drying, and then maybe on the day that you feel like you need to retouch your curls, you can brush through your hair in the morning and add a little bit of the serum to your hair, evenly distributing it and combing it through with a brush, letting it sit for about 30 seconds. So again, there's no section that feels wet or damp. That was too big of a section. Don't do that. And then you can curl. So you're getting a little bit more of the moisture, the heat protection, but you're not spraying on one of those products that are not my favorite products. See, I don't know if you can tell that that's going to be a weird one. Now, if you ever once in a while get a weird curl because you took too big of a section or too small of a section, when you have this much hair, it's all just going to blend in. Or if it's not going to, once you brush through with your fingers or once you comb through it and you take your mirror to look at the back of your hair, you're going to see if a piece needs to be recurled. I do it all the time. Like every time I do this, I think I got every single piece. I don't even need to look at the back of my hair. I'm so good. And every time I look at the back of the hair, I'm like, oops, let me fix these 5 pieces. So totally normal. Just don't forget to give it a little peek. We're getting close now, guys. Now the top section of the hair. The top section of the hair, it really depends, like when you're styling it, it really depends on what your top section is like. When it comes to extensions and extension wears, it is not a one-size-all situation. Some people have hardly any hair and we're sneaking hair on. Some people have a ton of hair and we have to add a ton of hair. Some people have really short broken off layers that just will not grow. Some have really short broken off layers that we're hoping will grow, but currently they're broken and short. And then there's people like me who have ideal extension hair where it's not too thin, it's not too thick, and it grows long and it gets skinny on the ends. That's easy. So lucky me, it's easy. But I also am aware that what I'm about to do is not everybody's reality. So for someone like me who has, pretty decent length on the top, pretty decent density, and good length, I already said good length, the fact that it gets skinny on the ends, so it blends in really well, that's great. Say you have really short layers on the top, and you really want, obviously, you want those to blend in as well as possible with the rest of the curl. Well, just like if you have those short bottom pieces that I said, if you have short bottom pieces, you do not want to curl those with a curling iron because they're just going to spring up and look completely disconnected from the rest of your hairstyle. Same goes with the top section. If you have very short layers and you hit those with a curling iron, you're just going to have these short little curly layers, and then they're going to be hanging on top of this long, pretty extension hair. So how can you get them to blend? Well, when my hair is done, it is going to look like it has this very smooth top, and somewhere around here, see, that's where the wave begins. So if your natural hair comes only to here, those top layers, then what you need to do is those top layers need to look like the top part of this curl. They don't actually really need curl. What they need is some fullness. You don't want to be flat against your head. So that comes in the round brushing. Often people who have hair like that, that lays really flat, they might have to wash their hair a little more often, just the partial wash, and then round brush it so that it's very full, so that it's not laying flat on their head. The biggest issue is making sure that if you have any fuzzy ends or any texture to your hair, that you are smoothing them out with heat. So it can actually be better to take a flat iron to give the top a little bit of smoothness and a little bit of not curl, not straightness, but a little bit of bend. So if you have your flat iron, which I don't have a flat iron with me, but if you have your flat iron and you have a section of hair, you wouldn't take it and just go bing, and you wouldn't take it and give it a turn. You would take it and kind of on a lowish heat, because all you're wanting to do is smooth that hair out so that the ends are smooth enough to blend into the extension hair. So you would take a section of your hair and you would kind of almost give it some lift as you were going over, as if you were going over a ball, like a soccer ball. and then just kind of pulling it through. And that's just gonna give your hair some bend and a little bit of curve. Then you can just kind of take your hands and shake it in. And that's just gonna be, it's gonna give it this look, just that smooth top, and then your ends are gonna allow to be blended into the curl. If you have this nice smooth top, you have a few little pieces that need to be curled, you can grab those pieces along with some extension hair and just give them a little bend right here, right at the very ends. And that's gonna give you that connection. So that's just a little tip for people with really short layers who are working on growing them out, or my lovely clients who have those little short layers who can't grow them out for whatever reason. I wish there was an answer for that after all these years doing hair, all the things I have seen, tried, all the things that I have hoped were going to work. I have seen clients spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on different treatments and pills and creams and everything. The only thing that I feel like actually works, and it's not a miracle, as people age, is minoxidil for women, but you have to use it every single day. And again, it's not a miracle, but it can slow the carnage, as my mother says. So once you've got that all curled, you can shake through it with your fingers. You can comb through it with a brush. I would say go ahead, take a mirror and see what's going on in the back, because there's always a few things you need to fix. I'm gonna take another small amount of the finishing serum, and yes, you can put this on dry as you would maybe an oil finishing serum or a shine spray. It has never weighed my hair down. It has always just given it a very healthy, shiny bounce. So this side I did strictly with my fingers. This side, I'm just gonna comb through. And I kind of tend to prefer the look of my hair combed through. So again, all personal preference, nothing is right or wrong. I just kind of wanted to show you the difference as to what the two look like. Obviously one is a little bit more textured looking. I know I brought a hairspray over here, but I don't see it, and that's okay. Let me see. It's not okay. Where's my hairspray? Well, if I had my hairspray here, I would simply take my bangs, swoop them forward and spray them. Take my bangs, swoop them forward and spray them, and then set them and go. So hopefully that was helpful. I know it's a lot, but I hope that you can watch these videos and you can use them by going through them as a step-by-step with me until you start to get the hang of it. Happy extensions.